what is that going to do with the revenue? Nothing. So that's also why we created like the growth formula.
What I see is that agencies, but developers as well, they keep being stuck in the same loop, which is we're growing with the network and referrals and maybe portals. There's a ceiling that's being hit. This is our marketing budget. Let's allocate it to this. It doesn't work and it starts over.
Lots of agencies, they don't have a lead problem. They have a sales problem because they don't follow up.
They are running ads, or they have hired someone that runs ads. They have a CRM system where the leads go into. They follow up with leads, but they are still not making this process profitable. It's because you're accepting low standards. Hey everyone, welcome to, the first ever Lead Estate internal podcast. We've done a few podcasts so far with different types of guests, a client of ours, but also other guests in the real estate space. But we also wanted to do some extra podcasts just with me and Maarten to talk about what we do, our findings throughout the past 5 years. And what's going on in the service for our clients, and we're just going to talk about kind of our process today, which we call the growth formula, which basically helps real estate agencies and real estate developers not only generate leads, but basically it covers all the steps necessary to convert those leads into actual deals and grow your business, basically. Yeah. So. Can you explain a little bit about what this growth formula is?
Yeah, you already mentioned it really well. Like the misconception of lots of agencies and developers, they come to us and they think it's just lead generation, right? But if you really want to create results with digital marketing, you just need to cover the whole process, from generating the lead to following up, till building the relation, nurturing the client, closing the deal. After closing the deal as well, getting the referrals, so you know that you've delivered a proper service. There's all the steps. Everything is necessary eventually to create a deal. Yeah. And I think that the misconception of lead generation, or lots of marketing agencies out there, it's about, we can generate traffic and we can do so many clicks to your website, or we can give you so many inquiries. But what is that going to do with the revenue, right? Nothing. So that's also why we created the growth formula. And it really started because when you founded Lead Estate, of course, it was more of an advertising agency. Yeah. It did generate leads. But every time we discovered things in the process where we just couldn't get any answers on. Now, for example, in the beginning, it was some agencies had results, some other agencies didn't have results. What was the problem there? So to find it out, we went start and calling the leads ourselves. Then from there, and starting to call the leads ourselves and booking appointments, again, we saw there as well, for some agencies it works, for some other agencies it doesn't work. What is the reason? What is the type of appointment? What is the quality of the appointment? Yeah. Then again, a step further, some people were still not closing deals, some agencies were closing deals. Now, again, going a step further, why are they closing the deals? What's happening there? And just taking ownership over the whole process. And that is actually what the growth formula covers. It's every step in the client acquisition process.
And that process the last 5 years is actually what created the growth formula, right? Because we tested, and every time we went one step further in testing why something does work or why something doesn't work for different partners of ours, that is really how we realized, hey, it's a process. And kind of by going a step further every time, we refine every step in the process, so that now we know exactly when we start a partnership, okay, these are the numbers that we need to hit in every step of the process, right? So maybe for a bit of clarification about what the growth formula actually is. So the growth formula is 6 steps. The word growth is an acronym, right? So it's generate, relationship management, outreach, winning deals, tracking data, and high standards. And in this podcast, we're just going to bring you into all of these steps, just have a conversation about I think how we came to the realization what works and what doesn't work, right? So I guess that leaves us to start with
generate.
With generate, yeah. And I think you are mainly active as well, you oversee the whole service delivery for our clients.
Yeah.
I'm more on the sales side and the content side. So I guess you should kick it off.
It's also the first step, of course, where we started with, of course, generating traffic. Like generating is actually like lead generation, like creating more traffic towards any channel whatsoever. And you can do this through Facebook, organic social media, so Instagram, or also Facebook, LinkedIn, paid advertising, Google. There's millions of ways to generate and get traffic. And that's already like a whole skill on itself.
Yeah.
Because how you position yourself and how you position yourself as a developer or as an agency, it has lots to do with what for kind of buyers or sellers you're going to attract. Right? For example, the prices that you keep on your website of the listings that you have right there, or the people where you qualify them on, or let's say the forms that you're using for attracting these buyers. Like everything that you do in the generation phase, of course, in the first step, it's a lot about how do you position, what do you want, what is that ideal customer that you're actually looking for, and is your company also like positioning itself to generating these people?
Yeah.
That's like the most important part, because if this part isn't done right, then the whole funnel doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because then, let's say by the deal making, you will get somebody that's looking for a dentist, right?
Yeah.
So it needs to be somebody that's actually like, for example, wanting to purchase or sell or rent a property that has qualifications and that can actually go further and move the needle.
Yeah, because it's very common in real estate that there's a lot of time wasters, people that maybe want to buy, or window shoppers, right? Everyone likes to look at luxury homes and browse on Idealista or on whatever real estate platform there is. But in the end, generating, like you said, it's all about the different channels that you're generating leads from. And of course, those leads need to be qualified, right? So what I mainly see with about 80% of the conversations that I have is that real estate agencies and developers, they are basically dependent on their network, referrals, and portals, I would say. And developers, they are dependent on agencies to sell their units, to sell out their projects. And then the agencies are then dependent on the network, referrals, and the portals. So in the end, also the developers are dependent on the network, referrals, and portals of the agencies. Yeah. But what you see is that agencies, they can grow slowly by doing that. And referrals and people from your own network are always the best quality leads. But it doesn't allow you to scale very fast or predictably. Yeah. Right? Because it's very uncertain.
Yeah, that's especially the part where most agency owners are not like conscious of. It's about the scaling part.
Yeah.
Right? Actually making a forecast when something has been sold out with the biggest amount of profit for an agency or even for a developer is the same. Like what actually needs to be like allocated to growing your business.
Yeah.
And making more revenue and making more profits, but on a predictable way.
Yeah. And what I hear all the time is, we have already spent our marketing budget.
Yeah.
Or, we have this maximum marketing budget.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really make sense. Like we don't have a marketing budget for our ads. We just launch ads or do a marketing service basically for ourselves. A marketing strategy, then we look at what the return is, and if the return is positive, we just scale because we know that if we spend more, that everything grows and that we will make the money back, right? So I always think there's not really a thing like a marketing budget. Of course there is. Of course we have to look at our profits and our revenue. There's no such thing as, we've spent our marketing budget for this year, because if you do it properly, your marketing will give you a return, right? But that's why the growth process needs to be in place, because you can't just launch ads and then expect deals coming from it.
Yeah.
Right? What I say mainly is that when agencies are dependent on referrals and on their network, they always try to find other ways. Okay, we're growing very steadily or slowly by referrals and network, and it's going great. We're delivering a great service, but then they think, hey, we want to scale faster. And then what are the options? Outside of portals, I'll consider that in network and referrals. But what are the options then? It's doing marketing yourself, some form of organic or paid marketing or traditional marketing, right? Or it's hiring another company to do it for you, right? And usually both don't work. And what I see is that agencies, but developers as well, they keep being stuck in the same loop, which is we're growing with the network and referrals and maybe portals. There's a ceiling that's being hit, and they can't really grow any further or very slowly. Okay, we have some budget for marketing. This is our marketing budget. Let's allocate it to this. It doesn't work, and it starts over. And it just keeps being that same circle all over again. And that's basically because you have not implemented the growth formula, right? And yes, it starts with lead generation, but there's multiple reasons why your lead generation cannot work.
Yeah. Curious to hear from you, like that cycle that they stay in. And of course, we created the growth formula for escaping that cycle. But what before is, let's say even like, what is the reason that they keep being in that cycle? Well, is it because the portals are keeping them there as well?
Well, the portals are, of course, always a good way to generate leads. I hear more and more that it's quite more challenging and that they get less and less returns. But I also speak to a lot of real estate agencies that get a lot of leads, and they got a lot of leads and deals through the portals. Yeah. However, it's usually not the network or the portals that don't work. Usually it's the strategy to try and scale beyond that. So implementing a strategy that also finds leads and people that want to buy or sell outside of the network. And then it basically comes down to two things. They either do it themselves, so like completely by themselves, the owner does it, who doesn't have an experience in marketing, or they have a team and they hire like a marketeer, someone who graduated as a marketeer. But usually what we see is that they don't really know what they're doing. A lot of times, yes, but I see a lot of times that when you try to figure everything out by yourself, you waste a lot of money instead of working with the right partner, right? But then also there are hundreds of thousands of marketing agencies out there who all promise big things, but in the end, they don't really take any responsibility over the whole process. So something that I always say, that if you don't work with us, that's totally okay. Yeah. However, work with someone that takes the responsibility over the sales part as well, because that sales data you need to actually
work together.
It needs to work together. And another reason for that is that I see, and that is kind of why we launched our new consulting community, basically, is that when you want to work with us, with Lead Estate, you have to spend at least 3,000 euros per month on advertising budget, right? For us to deliver the best possible service, right? And I'm not saying you need to spend 3,000 euros per month to generate leads and generate deals from it. You can start lower, but this is just our way of working, and this is how we can get the best results, because there's also a fee involved, right? So if we spend less, we're not going to make a return on investment. So you need to spend enough. And what happens then, usually, that when I speak to companies that are doing below 500,000 per year, what I see is that they then say, hey, you guys are too expensive. Well, that's always relative, but that's okay. But then they go work with someone who either does it on commission only, or for a very low advertising budget and a very low service fee. And with the things that we've learned in the past 5 years, it's just impossible to create, impactful results with a low advertising budget and low service costs. Because if you pay 750 euros, for example, per month to a marketing agency that just sends you some leads, don't take any responsibility over the whole sales process, like, how are you going to expect to get results? And what I see there is, yes, you maybe only spend 1,500 euros per month, but you're also going to lose it, right? So yes, it's cheaper, but in the Netherlands we say goedkoop is duurkoop, right?
Yeah. It's funny because actually the world has transformed to a way of online marketing where everything is measurable.
Yeah.
So you don't need to do offline marketing anymore. Like for example, the newspaper where you couldn't see how much people it reach, what for impact it has, etc. Like you finally have a open place of actually going into a world where you can actually see what you spend and what is the return. But then still people decide to go for options where they spend money and they don't know what's happening with their money. For example, what you just meant with the agency of €750 a month, right? They just give you a basket of leads, and then with those leads, go figure it out.
Yeah.
Like there are no touch points. You don't know what the lead quality is. You don't know if you can scale up the budget. Like there's no clarity. Same with portals. You spend, for example, €3,000 in a year. You get, and you can upload, let's say 50 beautiful villas, but there is no guarantee or there is no specific numbers or a forecast.
Yeah.
Like still, these are actually offline marketing options because you don't know what's going to happen with the money that you're going to spend.
Yeah. And what I would recommend in terms of generate to really close off this point, if you're a real estate agency or a developer that's just small and I would say doing less than €500,000 per year in revenue, then there's two things you can do. You can really invest into something like, for example, the lead estate community, the consultant community, where we will literally teach you how to do it yourself. So you don't have to waste all that money. You understand the growth process. You understand how it works before you hire someone else.
Yeah.
And that's usually what happens. It's your responsibility as the owner to make sure that you understand the process before you outsource it. Basically, everything that we do in our company, that we have people working for us, right, in our team, we've done it ourselves before, and now we understand it. But if you hire a random marketing company, you don't understand it, then you can't really expect them to get results for you, basically.
And this part, of course, is also belongs more to the end of the process because it's about standards. But as the owner, you put the standards, even at lead generation phase. Your standards are what's going to create everything and what's going to start everything. Yeah. So it's extremely important as the owner to know what's happening in this process. Yeah. Because it's not only from paid advertising, you also want to know it from all the other channels what's happening there. Because there's high possibilities of that you're just burning money.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something that we'll get into in the last ladder of growth, right? The last step of the growth process. So yeah, I would say about generate, figure out the channels that work for you. Usually that's network, referrals, and portals. If that works for you, keep doing it, right?
Make it specific.
Make it specific. That's very important. But if you reach a ceiling there and you want to try a different method, then really either make sure you have the budget and then really, really dig deep into who can actually help you and who actually gets results, right? And not go for the cheapest option. Or if you know for yourself that you have to go for the cheapest option, even though they can't present results or don't take accountability over the sales, then I would recommend you do it yourself, even though you don't want to do it. And ideally, you would outsource it to grow. But first, you need to understand the growth process yourself before you hire someone. And then you get to 500,000 per year. Then you can invest into a reliable partner. Yeah.
And to finish this topic off, also really important to take with you is make the time for it. Yeah. Not do it like 1 month, turn advertisements or whatsoever, what's your channel on, then be like, doesn't work, stop, don't trust it anymore, go to the next one. No, make a planning, make sure you have specific months where you also know what the data needs to be and what you're aiming for, and see if you're like on track or if you're off track.
So and then from generate, you go to relationship management, and well, that's basically, do you have a CRM or don't you have a CRM? Yeah. So it's, what I still see is that, this is something I heard last week, we do everything manually or in
Excel.
In Excel, or we have our calendars on paper. You know, that's how you can't really automate things, right? Or you have a CRM system, but you don't use it, right? That's also something we're going to talk about in the outreach part in the next step. It's just, you maybe call the leads, but you don't update the CRM system. So it's extremely important. And that's basically what relationship management is all about. You need to manage your relationships in a specific place. Yeah. And even if you only get 10 leads per month, in 3 years, that's 360 leads,
Yeah.
right? And those people will maybe buy again or sell again in the future. So even if you don't get enough leads, then still you need a CRM. You still need to update everything, because in the future, that will that will make you more revenue.
It surprises me how many people still look, for example, using Excel.
Yeah.
Like, just by some simple questions you could ask yourself, like, when have you followed up on this person for the last time? Oh, I don't know, we don't put it in there. Questions like, what are the budgets of these people? In which process, what for step are they? Have they been contacted in the previous days? How much people are in there that actually have bought something, and how much people have actually not bought something? So much things are just unclear because there's no use of a CRM system. And you don't need to work with us just for having a CRM system, but we have seen it that it's just necessary in the process. Like, you need to have it. Don't even work with us, but implement the CRM system.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same thing. Like, if you only have a spreadsheet or if you only have an Excel, you might be able to follow up with everyone, but definitely not on the long term. And definitely you're not able to install automations that will directly send a message to someone when they become a lead, etc.
Yeah.
So to me, it's mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
So not having a CRM, it's basically, I compare it to the conversation that we had with our accountant. So our accountant, he actually sometimes gets people on a sales call to become their accountant. And they say, yeah, right now I still need to print out all my invoices and then send it by mail to my accountant, and they will put it in manually. So there's apparently still accountants that still do that.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it is when you don't have a CRM system. It's just extremely outdated, and you're going to fall behind. You're going to lose deals to competitors. And, especially now with AI, you just don't have a functioning business and a competitive business.
Yeah. Yesterday, actually, somebody mentioned it to me because they were still doing everything like manually with the invoices, with the contracts, with like the CRM. They didn't have the CRM, everything on Excel. And I just like asked him a simple question, like, how much time does it cost you? And he was like, more than 10 hours in the week. It's like, okay, calculate that for, like, let's say the rest of the year. Like 52 times 10 is 520 hours. Now, divide that to between 24 and see how much days you're actually like doing manual tasks that could be easily automated, right?
Yeah.
And if you then, for example, let's say, calculate your hourly rate or how much you earn, or when you do requests or as an agent or as a developer are selling, like how much you can sell. That is the extra revenue you're leaving behind on the table.
Yeah, that's the costs of doing everything manually and not using a CRM. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much to say more about this step. It's just use a CRM system, implement automations, and make sure that you have an overview of all of your leads.
Yeah.
And that kind of flows into the next step, which is outreach, which is follow up would be another word. And you do that follow up in the CRM system, right? So these 2 points kind of overlap. So imagine you have a CRM system. What do, right? How do you make sure that with this CRM system, you set appointments to close deals? Well, you do that by following up, right? And this is something that we do for our clients as well, where you're really active in. Right?
Yeah. What I meant in the beginning when we started this podcast, it was like the second step that we were going to solve, of course, because things were unclear, right? And that's what you see, because if you don't use a sales agent and you let, for example, do an inside sales agent, and you let, for example, do a realtor everything, and you just pass the leads and you just send them away, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's happening with all the data that you're building up into a CRM system, right? And an inside sales agent makes sure that they keep all the admin tasks, of course, clear. They know exactly what's happening with the leads, but they're also following a protocol of making sure that every lead gets followed up every day, over and over and over again. So you really know you squeeze everything out of your system. Not that you get somebody, an inquiry, and then your competitor works harder with the lead than yourself and you lose clients there. Like, it's the most simple thing. Lots of agencies, they don't have a lead problem. They have a sales problem because they don't follow up.
And something that we're going to talk about later, they have a high standards problem.
Yeah.
Or a low standards problem, right? They are basically accepting from their team that are not following up.
Yeah.
I was actually speaking to a real estate agency in Portugal, and I asked them the question, who's following up with all the leads? And he's like, yeah, our sales team is doing that. I'm like, how many people? Yeah, like 5, right? So I said, are all of these agents following up perfectly? And he said, haha, of course not. And I was like,
you accept that?
Yeah.
Right?
Why? Of course not, right?
Yeah.
It's basically you think it's normal for your agents to not follow up with their leads.
Yeah.
That's low standards. And that's what I've told them, right? You are accepting that your agents are not following up and you're okay with that. While you are spending, I think he was spending like 1,000 or 2,000 euros per month on advertising.
And that's a gift. It should be something extra, right?
Yeah. And this is something what I see as well when we were at the office with the bigger real estate agency here in Madrid. And they divide all the leads over all the agents, basically. And what basically happens is they then don't follow up. But then they keep sending all the leads to the same agents. What I always say is, if you don't have an inside sales agent that follows up with all the leads, at least implement a protocol where it's like, if you follow up with all your leads consistently and you can show that, then you get leads.
Yeah.
You're not going to get leads from the central company, basically, if you're not even following up and wasting them, because it's wasting their money.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just something that the owner accepts, right? And that is why the follow-up is so extremely important.
What is also perhaps important to shine some light on is, of course, how does the sales agent work?
Yeah.
Let's say in our formula.
Mm-hmm.
And the sales agent really works, of course, in terms of scheduling appointments. They're actually like the gatekeeper in a way, like they keep the calendar safe of the agents and they just schedule appointments. And they do that in a way by qualifying. Again, by really making sure that what gets sent through is qualified. People have the right budgets for what they're looking for. They have the right buying intention for what they're looking for. There is no more objections that perhaps could occur in the appointment with, of course, the agent, so that the agent also has more time for being busy with sales.
Yeah.
And that's just really important. So make, like, for example, a simple script and really like declare what are the qualification questions of an agent before he's going to book somebody or before he sets an appointment. Not that you're just setting appointments for setting appointments.
Yeah.
Because again, then you're going to lose deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I think is the main problem in outreach, in doing the lead follow-up, is that multiple agents at the same time do the follow-up.
Yeah.
And they don't do it, or they don't update the CRM system, and that the owner just accepts it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense as well. Like, agents, they don't like doing follow-up, right? They like building relationships and closing deals and being in person with clients, showing houses, showing apartments, and closing the deal. They are not the type of people that update the CRM system or do some other details or keep following up with people that are maybe interested in 6 months. It's the most essential task, but they don't want to do it. Yeah. And it's the biggest problem in the whole real estate.
In a way, and this is something, the question I get a lot, or an answer actually I get a lot, is like, no, that doesn't work because the agent needs to build a relation immediately, right? But if you have somebody that's way better on the phone, on building the relation and passing somebody through and providing them the best value that they can get, and then giving them to the next step that also in their position can give them the best value, then there's a way better delivery, right?
It's about framing as well. It's like if you say, yeah, I'm going to hand you off to the agent now, well, that's different. But if an inside sales agent calls a lead and he or she says, all right, perfect. I think I found the exact specialist for your specific situation. Let me connect you with this agent. He or she is the specialist on this topic, on this area, right? And that is the way that you want to do it, right? And another question, what builds a better relationship? Someone that follows up within a day, or an agent that doesn't have time to follow up and doesn't follow up, right? So yes, in an ideal, perfect world, you have 5 agents, the agent calls directly,
and they do everything
perfectly. but 99% of the cases that just doesn't happen, right? And this is the solution how we found that fixes it.
Yeah, and this is of course the solution that wins more deals.
Exactly, and we've been brainstorming about this a lot, right? Because we have a lot of clients that when we send appointments, they close deals and they're focused, right? But we also have a lot of clients that are not able to close deals. And we're very transparent about that as well, right? But the way we work is that we look at that process and we identify the pain point, right? And sometimes we can clearly say, okay, hey, the ads need some optimizing, or the inside sales agent needs optimizing. But in a lot of cases, it is the sales, right? And maybe some have experienced that in the past as like, oh, you're pointing fingers and it's the leads, but we're a team here, right? So we just try to identify where the pain point is. And we have a lot of great clients that also accept this, which is like, okay, hey, I have some improvement to do in the sales. Let's work on it, right? And you need to be open-minded when working with us because, well, we're Dutch, we're very direct. So you need to be very open-minded and accepting that everyone has a certain responsibility in this process. For the agencies, that's closing the deal and following up. And that is, that is the biggest focus point, actually, making sales. And I think one of our best case studies is, on the other hand, also one of our case studies where they lost the most amount of deals, right? Like selling a few million, but also losing out on a lot of deals because for a certain period of time, they didn't actually follow up. They didn't do the long-term follow-up, right?
We learned a lot from it as well, because through this process of this partner particularly, for example, we learned like, even when the lead has been handed off again to the agencies or to the developer, we need to be in control and we need to know what's happening and where are they, and not trust it in a way. And it sounds really wrong because you need to create trust, but of course, people in the normal day, like there's millions of different situations. So of course you can get in your headspace and lose things. So we've really learned from that moment that even in that process, when the lead has been created an appointment and they were handed off, still always making tasks, following up. Hey, what happened in that conversation? Why did it go wrong? And this is also how like you win more deals, because what we also do, for example, is, okay, send us a transcript of course, how the meeting went, and record the video and let us know what were the objections of, for example, the last 5 calls, and why did that one call, that one succeed, and from which advertisement did it came, because then you can also calculate it back from why did this work and why did the other people not work. Okay, let's get more of the people that work.
And that brings you back again a little bit to the first step, generate. You optimize your advertisements based on the sales information, the sales feedback. And what most marketing companies do is they just send a lead and they get 100 leads, and every one of the leads has filled in, I want to buy within 6 months, I have €1 million to spend. Oh, that's a good lead. But it doesn't mean that that's a good lead. You only know that when you calculate basically how much leads convert into appointments, what they say on the phone, etc. So that is extremely important. And this is something that we want to do more and more and more in really helping our clients with closing the deal and making sure that they actually convert our leads.
We're doing it now, closing the deal, like also putting closers. So we manage the whole process, and that's funny because a year ago we still had for ourselves like internal conversations about, that's not going to be possible, right? They need to do it. But now again, you see, if things are not working in the process as we want them to work, need to take more ownership. And that's also how you win more deals. So it's again a perfect addition of what we're building here: ownership in everything that we do. And if we are not able to take ownership over something, that just means that, okay, there's a pain point there. There's a bottleneck. There is something where we need to create clarity, because from that clarity, we can make more profit and make more insights, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. And just for clarification, like, of course, we can only close the deals for developers that is off plan, right? And of course, there's a lawyer involved and everything.
But let's see in the next year, there's even possibilities that the growth formula has 10 more letters behind it.
Yeah, who knows? Well, we need to keep it simple,
Yeah.
right? But I think also what we've done very well is we've really exposed everything. And this is something about the next point about tracking data. It's more like the more you expose your conversion and expose all the data behind your sales, the more you learn. And in the beginning, like 3 years ago, before we started doing this, for us, that was very confronting because it would show that we're not really getting the results that we were looking for, right? But because we decided to expose it, we learned and we know exactly where to optimize, right? That has really made a lot of impact.
So that's really good. Like when, for example, a client was unhappy, we knew that we were gonna track data and shine light on something that we were not gonna be satisfied about, because of course, if there's no revenue being created, then something is wrong. So you need to find clarity. However, and this is also a really important thing, like we track data of the steps that actually move the needle, not vanity metrics, because there are as well metrics where, and this is what came, for example, out of a consultation with a developer out Bali a couple of weeks ago. They tracked everything. Contracts that were in the reservation process, from the contracts again, there was like multiple metrics. Then from the drop up of the lead, there were multiple metrics. They were just calculating everything, and because it was such a detailed, such a big process, because it was so big, it was a whole process to manage the process again, and that cost so much work that eventually it became too difficult and they didn't know where to optimize for. And that's what you have when you track everything. So keep it simple as well. Like there are a couple of metrics that are just really important. That's of course the budget that you're spending, the leads that you're getting for the budget that you're spending. With the leads, of course, the people that pick up, and of course as well the people that you convert from the pickup, because then you know what the quality is of the leads that you're getting. Conversion, of course, based on the qualification questions, because if you just book everybody into an appointment, you still don't know if it's a qualified appointment. And then from appointment again, what is the conversion from appointment to deal? Because again, you want to know how much deals are created from the appointments you schedule. And this you can then as well reframe back from the budget that you're using. Simple. And yes, here and there you can have an extra step, but keep it lean.
What I think is, since we started tracking this a few years ago, I also see that we exactly know where the pain point is. So we sometimes have that clients, maybe after 3 months, they're just not closing what they expected, right? They would expect it more. And I think we're very much able to turn it around most of the times now, because we can exactly see where the pain point is and where the obstacle is in the whole process. But there's another thing with tracking data, and that is when you make an optimization, when you make a change in the advertisements, for example, and the rest of your process is extremely consistent and you follow the same protocol, if you have that data, you also know that when you change something on this side, what the effect is. So you change something in the ads, your follow-up protocol stays the same, and your conversion rate goes from 10 to 15%. Then you know the effect of an optimization. But if that data is not clear, then you can change something in the advertisements, but you actually don't know the effect. It's only based on feeling or on thoughts.
And this is also why, of course, lots of agencies work with us, because we've worked with hundreds of agencies. And because we've really seen that when we implement this, this is going to shift. And when we take away this, this is going to shift here. And because we exactly know what happens in the process, because we track everything, we know what a process or what a certain implementation can do to your current company. And again, what this, of course, makes really beautiful and like wraps everything off is, you could see, based on all the numbers, where the numbers are down, where you have low standards.
And in the end, you can implement all the 4-5 steps, right? You can generate leads, you can have a CRM system, you can have a follow-up agent even, or people that follow up with the leads. You can have people that close deals. So you can have kind of the structure of the growth process. And you can even track the data. However, if you as the owner continue to keep accepting low standards from every person involved in this process, it will not work. And I would say maybe 50% of the people that I speak to, real estate companies that I speak to, they don't have this process, right? They are only dependent on network referrals, etc., right? But the rest of the 50%, they do have this process. They are running ads, or they have hired someone that runs ads. They have a CRM system where the leads go into. They follow up with leads, and they have closers, or they have agents, right? But they are still not making this process profitable. It's because you're accepting low standards. You're accepting low standards from the marketing agency that you work with, which is basically you accepting low standards from yourself because you hired this marketing agency. You're accepting that your team doesn't follow up with leads, like the example that I gave before. And you're accepting that your agents have a low closing rate and they don't update the CRM system. And this is the biggest problem of everything.
And what you accept is the reflection of your company.
Yeah.
And we go really deep into this specific topic because, for example, the other day, one of our employees, he was just not sitting up straight in the call.
Yeah.
Like, for example, those things, it's just important. You want to show up for what you're going to achieve, right?
Yeah.
You show up for your work, you show up for your clients, you show up for creating results. Like, you show up, and by having high standards, of course, you're going to see where's your team failing at the moment and where does it need to be improving and how are we going to get it improved. And that has a lot to do with insight as well. Like, give people the insight of why do we have a low standard here and what would happen if we're going to implement a higher standard, for example, on this process. What will happen with the results? Let's, for example, say content-wise, right? Lots of agencies, the content that they're making is just not good. Like, it is not good. Like, they're not doing everything by phone, for example. It just doesn't really reach the right audience. And this just has to do with having right standards, right? And if you would upgrade this and you would make better content and you would make better advertisements and make better videos, you're gonna attract people that resonate with that type of content that you're publishing. And it has to do with high standards. Same with how you speak, with how you close the deal, with the
how you dress.
How you dress. It all has to do with it.
And I would say, like, I would look in the camera directly, and what I would do personally as the biggest lesson of this podcast, I would write down the word growth, right? GROWTH. And, well, you can leave out the H, because in every of the first 5 steps, I would write under each letter, where are you still accepting low standards? That could be, my agents are not following up. It could be my ads are not performing, or my marketing agency that I work with just doesn't communicate, right? And you look at everything, and for 90% of the companies that we speak to, they say it's their fault. But the biggest thing with high standards is everything is your fault. Well, it might not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to solve it, right? And everything in high standards comes down to how much responsibility you take over everything in your business as the owner.
Yeah, and that wraps it up.
Yeah, I think we can talk about high standards for hours and hours, but I think then we have a 5-hour podcast. We're very passionate about this.
Yeah, we're already talking about this topic through the whole week, so let's leave it under the hour.
Exactly. So if you guys want to get into contact with us, want to learn more about the growth formula, how to implement it yourself, or let us help you implement it in your business. You can click the link below or visit our website, or just get into contact with us. We can schedule a consultation, and we move from there. We will basically look at your entire business from the view of the growth formula. And in each step, we are basically going to determine where your standards are too low, and where you're not hitting the numbers and the KPIs that you need to hit to actually make it profitable in a measurable way. So if this speaks to you, then please contact us. We're there to help you
raise those standards.
To help you raise those standards. So we'll see you in the next Lead Estate internal podcast, or in the next YouTube video.